rabbits. No!
By the mid-1980s, director, producer, and screenwriter James L. Brooks had made several feature films, having recently won an Academy Award for his critically acclaimed and commercially successful film, Terms of Endearment. At this point, Brooks had no intention or plans to return to producing television shows as he had done previously. However, one day, a Hollywood agent contacted him, sending a videotape showcase featuring British actress, comedian, singer, and former dancer Tracey Ullman. She had previously turned down a deal with CBS for a show's direction she was unhappy with. Brooks was really impressed by her talents, so he offered to help her produce a comedy sketch variety show which he believed would best suit her based on her various talents. It was during the development of this show that the showrunners encountered an obstacle. The producers had trouble figuring out how to end one sketch before going into the next one. They decided on adding animated segments between them, specifically considering talking animals. One specific idea they had in mind was a talking bear. According to one of the executive producers, Ken Eston, the idea didn't exactly feel like a jackpot, but it was challenging to think of any other ideas. Then, another producer, Richard Sakai, gave Eston a comic drawn by cartoonist Matt Groening. It was called Life in Hell, and featured anthropomorphic rabbits and quite wholesome themes like death, social alienation, and the fear of inevitable doom. Anyways, they all felt it would be a perfect fit for animated segments between breaks, so they contacted Matt Groening, the creator of the comic strips, and asked him if he could do the segments. Groening accepted the offer. However, as soon as he realized that animating Life in Hell for the show would require his publication rights to be removed, he passed on the offer. He was then asked by Richard Sakai if he had any other characters. That's when Groening quickly started sketching a dysfunctional American family. According to Groening, he wasn't feeling very creative that day, so he gave them all names from his own family. His named character would be the little troublemaker, but he felt it would be kinda obvious if he named him Matt, so instead, he named him Brat. Well, assuming the parents aren't completely unstable. Assuming the parents don't absolutely hate their own child, he turned it into an anagram, Bart. He gave the family a name, The Simpsons. He pitched the idea to the showrunners, and Fox negotiated quite a lucrative merchandising deal with Groening. The short's cast consisted of two of the Tracey Ullman Show actors, Dan Castellaneta and Julie Kavner, to play Homer Simpson, as well as Abraham Simpson and Krusty the Clown, and Marge Simpson, respectively. Nancy Cartwright was cast as Bart Simpson, and Yeardley Smith as Lisa Simpson. After some development, it was finally showtime. On April 5th, 1987, The Tracey Ullman Show premiered its first episode on Fox as one of the first original primetime series on the network. The show premiered with the animated shorts of Dr. Nigo. The show premiered with another series of animated shorts, which would initially be the animated series of shorts, appearing on breaks regularly on the show, with The Simpsons appearing on an occasional basis. On April 19th, 1987, The Simpsons appeared for the first time ever between the breaks of the Tracey Ullman Show's third episode. The shorts were animated by the small animation house Klasky Supo for cheap. The animators behind the shorts consisted of three CalArts graduates named Bill Kopp, Wes Archer, and David Silverman. At first, there wasn't a ton of awareness on the character's huge potential and future fame. In fact, after the first couple of shorts, the British Broadcasting Channel even decided to cut The Simpsons out of the show's English airing entirely. According to Ullman, the BBC said the only thing they didn't like about the show was those weird little animated characters, and suggested maybe they could get rid of them because they would never catch on. However, The Simpsons shorts were received quite positively, and was said to spread the most laughter among the live audience. This led to the shorts' promotion to appear every episode of the show full-time, replacing the other shorts about that doctor completely. The Simpson family appeared on the Tracey Ullman Show in the breaks of all episodes in Season 2 and Season 3. James Brooks felt he really liked working with the people who produced the animated shorts. He loved their care and spirit around the production of the animations. According to Brooks, it was the animator's dream to do a quality animated show on primetime. After a while, James Brooks thought this was quite a good reason to start a separate animated show. So, in 1989, with the help of production companies like Klasky Supo and South Korean animation studio ACOM, Matt Groening, James L. Brooks, and writer and producer Brooks had worked with previously, Sam Simon, adapted and developed The Simpsons into a half-hour series for Fox. Sam Simon gathered the team of writers, the cast was reassembled with 2 additional actors, and the show's theme was composed by Danny Elfman. The opening sequence was made purposefully long to cut down the animation necessary for the episodes, but Groening compensated for it with 2 gags, the chalkboard gag and the couch gag, which would both change each episode. Into the fall of 1989, it was finally production time. The series was set to premiere that fall with the episode Some Enchanted Evening. The plot was about Homer and Marge going out for a night, and leaving Bart and Lisa with an evil babysitter. Then, it was finally time to review the animation. They were getting excited, sitting down in their screening seats, and it was garbage. Everything was off model and disaster was caused when screened in front of the Gracie Film staff. Brooks' initial reaction was literally, "This is sh*." The animation was so terrible and stinky that the absolute majority of the episode had to be redone. They even considered cancelling and just aborting the entire show if the next planned episode, Bart the Genius, sucked just as much. So the show's premiere was postponed to December with a Christmas special instead. The episode, Simpsons Roasting on an Open Fire, premiered on December 17th, 1989. The Simpsons, as a TV series, was now airing for the very first time. The show was on, and thus, it quickly happened. Within the first few months of 1990, The Simpsons became a hit show. The series ranked among the 30 highest rated shows that season. It was really a family hit. The show appealed to both young audiences and a more sophisticated adult audience. Bart Simpson became one of the most popular TV characters of 1990, and this massive Bart popularity was referred to as Bartmania. Millions of Bart Simpson's t-shirts were sold. They featured amazingly nice contributional and motivational quotes like, "Underachiever, and proud of it, man," and "I'm Bart Simpson, who the hell are you?" Yeah, the shirts were banned in the majority of public schools in America due to the nature of them. Many people felt that Bart was a really bad role model for children because of his lack of punishment for misbehaving. I mean, not gonna lie, I'm honestly seriously uncertain if parents would actually want to buy their kids shirts like the $2 billion of revenue after 14 months. Bart was really pushed in the promotions due to his vast popularity. He was the most advertised character for the show at the time. Despite the Bartmania criticism being one of the first of many Simpsons controversies to come, the show was critically acclaimed and the reviews it received were extremely positive. In October 1990, The Simpsons proved successful enough to compete with the #1 show at the time, The Cosby Show. Due to the show's success, The Simpsons time slot were moved to Thursday. The Simpsons was in the top 10 during the time of Sunday airings, so the producers were highly skeptical of the move, as they felt they would ruin the ratings of the show. The new Thursday airings began on October 11th, 1990, with Season 2's first episode, Bart Gets an F. Despite The Cosby Show beating The Simpsons ratings-wise with slightly better ratings, Bart Gets an F was watched by an estimated 33.6 million viewers, and is till this day the most watched episode in the history of the Fox network. Later that month, on Halloween of 1990, the first Treehouse of Horror special was released, a series of non-canon surrealist Halloween specials made for every year. The Simpsons Sing the Blues was a music album to be released around Christmas of 1990, including the most recognizable song, Do the Bartman, which was, in fact, produced by Michael Jackson. Although due to Jackson's contract to another label, he could not be credited, and thus Groening had to deny that fact when asked, though it was revealed a couple of years later. What was confirmed, however, was Michael Jackson's appearance as a guest star in Season 3's first episode, Stark Raving Dad, in 1991. He voiced Leon Kompowski, a character who claims to be Michael Jackson. This was also when James L. Brooks, Matt Groening, and Sam Simon stepped down as showrunners, and Simpsons writers since the show's debut, Al Jean and Mike Reiss, took over. Back in season 1's finale of 1990, The Simpsons released an arcade game which was their first video game, though it was only available for a very limited time. The first Simpsons game after this was Bart vs. the Space Mutants, released in 1991 for the Nintendo Entertainment System most notably. The Simpsons would go on to publish many more video games throughout the show's run. In January of 1992, President of the United States, George H.W. Bush, said in his re-election campaign speech,
"We are going to keep on trying to strengthen the American family, to make American families a lot more like the Waltons and a lot less like the Simpsons."
To which, in an additional intro segment, The Simpsons responded with,
"Hey, we're just like the Waltons. We're praying for an end to the Depression, too."
In February the same year, with the airing of Season 3 episode Homer at the Bat, The Simpsons finally managed to beat The Cosby Show in ratings. In October of 1992, Season 4's second episode, A Streetcar Named Marge, would cause controversy for The Simpsons yet again. In a musical song within the episode, the city of New Orleans is described as which caused citizens of New Orleans to get quite upset and send about 100 complaints in one day. The Simpsons, of course, responded to this in the following episode's chalkboard gag with, "I will not defame New Orleans." Remember Tracey Ullman? About a year earlier, Tracey Ullman filed a literal lawsuit against The Simpsons and claimed that she was entitled to a share of the show's profit. $2.5 million of Fox's estimated $50 million in 1992 to be exact. Fortunately for Fox, the court ruled in their favor. By season 5's beginning in 1993, many of the original writers of The Simpsons had left, including Matt Groening and Sam Simon. David Merkin took over as showrunner and executive producer, and his abilities were perceived dividedly by the writing staff. Despite the writers' mixed opinions about his abilities to run the show, Merkin's era and style of comedy are generally liked by fans. It was during Merkin's run that The Simpsons' focus finally moved from "Eat my shorts" to "Where are my shorts?" Season 5's 15th episode, Deep Space Homer, was to be released in February of 1994. In its production, writers felt the space episode was too big of an idea, and was so big that the writers had nowhere to go, according to Matt Groening. For the 16th episode of the 6th season, to be released in February of 1995, the writers wanted to make an episode where the Simpsons visit Australia, and found the idea of making fun of a country very interesting. The inaccurate depiction of Australia and the Australian population was done on purpose for fun. Bart vs. Australia was released. Of course, Australians hated it. Once again, the Simpsons staff received over 100 letters from insulted Australians. Writers Bill Oakley and Josh Weinstein concluded Season 6 with a 2-part mystery episode, Who Shot Mr. Burns?, which was also a contest. The first part premiered as the last episode of Season 6. Following the first part's broadcast, Fox arranged a contest where the viewers would guess, well, who shot Mr. Burns? Viewers could call the number 1-800-COLLECT to guess who the culprit was. The contest, which ran between August 13th and September 10th, was one of the first contests to tie in television and the internet. Fox launched Springfield.com in devotion to the mystery, and the winner would be animated on the show. There were many different guesses. According to several people who remember the original show's airing, a lot of them guessed Waylon Smithers, among other characters. On September 17th, 1995, it was time for premiere. Right before the episode itself, the TV special Springfield's Most Wanted, hosted by the host of America's Most Wanted, Sean Walsh, aired. The special was created to help with finding out who shot Mr. Burns, and laid out potential clues and possible suspects, featuring opinions from former LA Police Chief Daryl Gates, among other people's predictions. Jimmy Vaccaro of the Las Vegas Casino and Hotel, The Mirage, took bets on who the shooter was. The casino's tote board briefly shows Homer as the most guessed suspect. When the special ended, it was time for the actual episode's premiere. Spoiler alert, by the way. If you want to see the episode for yourself, feel free to skip to this timestamp to avoid any spoilers. In the episode, Mr. Burns is in a coma. At the hospital, Burns wakes up from his coma shouting, "Homer Simpson," and the police conclude that Homer shot him for not remembering his name. However, it's revealed that Homer Simpson is the only thing Burns can say, leading to the conclusion becoming less credible. Homer arrives at the hospital with an angry mob of citizens and starts shaking Burns, leading him to speak normally. Burns asks, who is the man that is shaking him? Furious about Burns having yet again forgotten his name, Homer comically grabs Chief Wiggum's gun and threatens to kill Burns, unless he retracts his accusation that Homer killed him. Burns confirms that he was not shot by Homer. Burns points at and confirms the shooter is Maggie Simpson. This most likely caught every viewer, or at least the vast majority of viewers, by surprise. In fact, no one had officially ever correctly guessed Maggie during the contest, so Fox literally had to pick a random winner instead, even if they guessed incorrectly. The random winner who was revealed didn't even watch the show, and wanted a cash prize instead of being animated. Despite no one having officially guessed it correctly, Bill Oakley and Josh Weinstein actually knew of one, but only one single person that had correctly guessed Maggie based on the episode's clues. This individual made a post online, and writers wanted to give this user a special gift. Due to contest regulations, they were unable to contact them until the contest was done. Unfortunately, they were unable to find the anonymous poster by then. Oakley continued searching for the individual years later. Bill Oakley and Josh Weinstein took over as showrunners by season 7 and had a goal for their episodes to focus on the Simpson family's members and explore their feelings and emotions towards each other, using season 3 as a basis for Homer Simpson. Oakley was a huge fan of season 3 and considered it to be the greatest season of comedic television. When the story for Lisa the Vegetarian was pitched, the producers thought it would definitely get Paul McCartney to guest star in the episode, and McCartney agreed on one condition: Lisa would stay vegetarian and never revert. This led to one of the few permanent character developments on the show. Lisa the Vegetarian aired in October of 1995, and Lisa has stayed vegetarian on the show since. On December 30th, 1995, the voice actor for Lunch Lady Doris, Doris Groh, passed away. Her character was retired out of respect, but returned as Lunch Lady Dora after a decade and then voiced by Tress MacNeille. On February 9th, 1997, with season 8's 14th episode, The Simpsons officially became the longest-running primetime animated series in the US. The episode, named The Itchy and Scratchy and Poochie Show, took a rather parodical approach towards this milestone. It dealt with the issue and problems of a show's longevity, and when an obvious attempt is made to try making the show relevant again. In 1997, by season 9, the showrunner stepped down yet again and Mike Scully took over as showrunner. It was during this era that The Simpsons would eventually decline in quality, according to viewers and fans. Voice actor of Troy McClure and Lionel Hutz, Phil Hartman, was tragically killed by his wife in a murder-suicide on May 28, 1998, in his sleep inside their home. Both Troy McClure and Lionel Hutz were retired from the show. Season 10 began in August of 1998. This season is often considered the start of The Simpsons' downfall and the end of the golden era. The season ended in 1999 with the episode 30 Minutes Over Tokyo, which never aired in Japan due to a scene where Homer throws Japanese Emperor Akihito into a trunk of sumo thongs, which was considered disrespectful. It is generally agreed upon by fans and viewers that if not season 10 was the start of the decline, then season 11 from 1999 to 2000 was definitely it. Whether it was season 10 or 11 is usually debated. Voice actress of Maude Flanders, among other characters, Maggie Roswell, left in 1999 due to not being paid enough to travel between Denver and LA for recording sessions. This led to Maude Flanders being killed off in season 11 episode 14 in 2000. Maggie Roswell returned in 2002 after reaching a deal to record her lines from home. Al Jean returned as showrunner by the 13th season in 2001 and remains as the showrunner till this day. In 2002, season 13's 15th episode, Blame It on Lisa, caused extreme controversy involving Brazil and the Rio de Janeiro tourist board. The episode was about the Simpsons visiting Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. The board claimed the episode caused damage to its image and loss of revenue, and therefore prepared to sue Fox and the producers of the show. However, lawyers informed the producers that the city couldn't technically sue them for such a reason. James L. Brooks apologized in response. This is considered one of the biggest controversies in the show's history. In 2001, The Simpsons voice cast was signed on to do a feature-length Simpsons movie. Matt Groening and James L. Brooks would produce the film, along with David Silverman as director, and wanted to assemble the strongest possible writing team to produce this movie, choosing many of the early season's writers like David Merkin and Mike Reiss. Mike Scully and Al Jean were invited to produce the film along with Brooks and Groening. From late 2003, they continued to work on the screenplay. The script was rewritten over 100 times, and Groening had a desire to make this film dramatically stronger than an average Simpsons episode. The film's animation began in 2006. The movie would show The Simpsons for the first time in digitally produced animation, as well as be produced in anamorphic widescreen. Springfield, Vermont would be the town of The Simpsons movie's world premiere after competing against 16 Springfields across the US to host the premiere.
Movie on the big screen.
The Simpsons movie premiered on July 21st, 2007. The film was an extremely massive success. It grossed about $74 million total in its opening weekend, outperforming the $40 million expectation from Fox, and set several box office records. The film was also highly critically acclaimed. Marge Simpson's voice actor, Julie Kavner, was praised for her emotional performance. The series would continue with the same 4x3 format and standard resolution throughout season 19. In season 20th, 10th episode, released in February 2009, the show made the transition to HD 16:9 and updated the opening sequence for the first time since 1990. The Simpsons' 20th anniversary was celebrated in a year-long campaign from January 2009 to January 2010. The celebration was named Best 20 Years Ever. The Simpsons broke the record as the longest-running animated primetime scripted TV series in late 2009. On May 20th, 2012, Season 23, Episode 22, Lisa Goes Gaga, was released. This is often considered the worst Simpsons episode of all time, and is the lowest rated Simpsons episode on IMDb to date. Unfortunately, The Simpsons' quality had been considered declined for a while, and hasn't seemed to recover according to fans. The show has had some peaking episodes afterwards, like the Brick Like Me episode in 2014 however, but the show is still not generally received that well anymore. In March of 2019, the Walt Disney Company required 21st Century Fox, and The Simpsons became the property of Disney. Well, at least The Simpsons could now be streamed on Disney Plus. Exclusively. As of this video's making, The Simpsons is currently in its 35th season, and the show will turn 35 this year, and the character's 37. The Simpsons has been around since the late 1980s and seen by multiple generations. And thus, The Simpsons, a 37-year history, is concluded. If you enjoy this video and want more examples of long-running shows like The Simpsons, check out When TV Shows Run for So Long, It Spans Generations. It's a smaller video, but could also be worth checking out.